What is this small metal object with two round weights on arms? It's about 2 to 3 inches tall and was found in my in-laws' basement. They think it may have been something their grandfather used, who worked with machinery. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a flyball governor, a mechanical speed regulator once used in early spring-powered phonographs like the Victrola. This small metal device, typically just a few inches tall, contains pivoting arms with spinning weights. As the turntable motor runs, the shaft spins and the balls swing outward due to centrifugal force. When they move far enough, the governor engages a brake mechanism that slows the motor slightly, keeping the playback speed steady. Flyball governors were essential for playing records at a consistent pitch, especially before electric motors and electronic speed controls existed. The concept dates back to the late 1700s when it was first used in steam engines. By the late 19th century, it was adapted for phonographs. In 1898, inventors like Eldridge R. Johnson and Thomas Edison patented versions of these governors for use in gramophones, helping launch the early recording industry. These devices remained standard inside wind-up record players through the 1920s and beyond. I've seen this strange object sticking out of the water near a creek where I live. It looks like part of a vessel or some kind of old machinery, and it's been submerged like this for years. I have no idea what it is, and I don't even know where to start looking for information. What you found is a piece of Quester 1, a homemade submarine built in the 1960s by a Brooklyn shipyard worker named Jerry Bianco, who had an ambitious dream to raise the wreck of the luxury liner Andrea Doria from the bottom of the Atlantic. The Andrea Doria sank in July of 1956 after colliding with another ship off the coast of Nantucket. Bianco built the submarine almost entirely by hand on the banks of Coney Island Creek, using salvaged steel and funding the project by selling $1 shares in his company. Quester 1 measured about 45 feet in length and weighed over 80 tons. According to reports, Navy engineers rated it safe for depths up to 600 feet, more than enough to reach the Andrea Doria. Bianco's plan was to descend to the wreck and use inflatable lift bags to float it back to the surface. But things didn't go as planned. During a public launch event in 1970, the crane operator lowered the sub into the water too soon. With ballast removed from one side to reduce weight, the submarine immediately tipped over and became stuck in the mud. Bianco eventually managed to upright the submarine and even conducted a few test dives, but the failed launch scared off investors, and the mission never moved forward. I found this tool in an old pine chest I bought at a woodworking auction. It has what looks like an ivory handle, and the metal tip opens when you loosen the bolt, kind of like a pair of locking tweezers. There are no markings on it. Does anyone know what this tool was used for? What you found is a ruling pen, a precision drafting tool once used by engineers, cartographers, and illustrators to draw consistent ink lines by hand. The instrument works by adjusting the gap between two metal blades using the screw at the top. Ink is loaded into the slot between the blades, and when the pen is drawn across the paper, it produces a clean, uniform line. The width of the line can be controlled by tightening or loosening the screw. The example you found appears to date from the late 19th or early 20th century, judging by the aged steel tip and the handle, which is likely made of bone or possibly ivory. Today, antique ruling pens with bone or ivory handles are considered collectible items. Their market value depends on condition and maker, but typically ranges from around $50 to $100. I found this unusual tool at a thrift store in a box of old kitchenware. The store owner had no idea what it was. Is this some kind of specialized knife or tool? What you found is a shinai maintenance tool, a specialized instrument used in the practice of kendo, the Japanese art of swordsmanship. During intense training, the bamboo slats of a shinai can begin to fray or crack. This tool helps practitioners shave away those splinters, keeping the surface safe and preventing potential injuries. The curved notch in the blade fits the contour of the bamboo slats, allowing users to gently scrape away imperfections without damaging the wood. I found this heavy metal tool while cleaning out an old house. It has the name C.S. Osborne, United States, stamped on the side, along with the number 5/8. It looks like something you'd strike with a hammer, maybe to punch something. Does anyone know what this tool is? What you found is a 5/8-inch wad punch, also known as an arch punch, manufactured by C.S. Osborne and Company. a company that's been producing leather and industrial hand tools since the early 19th century. This tool was specifically designed to punch clean, perfectly round holes through thick materials like leather, rubber, fiber, and gasket stock. The working principle is remarkably simple. You place the punch upright on the material, then strike the flat top with a hammer or mallet. The sharp, circular edge at the base cuts out a round disc, called a wad, which is pushed up into the hollow barrel. Wad punches like this one have been used for generations across a variety of trades, from leatherworking and saddle making to plumbing, mechanical repair, and even shotgun reloading. In fact, the term wad punch comes from its historical use cutting felt or cardboard discs for muzzle-loading firearms. A coworker found this unusual knife among his late father's belongings. It has a highly decorative blade with intricate engravings, and the handle appears to be made of wood with metal and colored ring accents. The blade is about 6 inches long, with a total length of around 8 inches. Does anyone know what kind of knife this is? What you've found is a gunong, a traditional dagger from the southern Philippines, closely associated with the Muslim Moro tribes of Mindanao. It's a smaller cousin of the famous Chris sword and was historically carried for self-defense. In 1915, during the American occupation of the Philippines, civilians were banned from carrying long swords. In response, the Moro people began to carry larger and more elaborate versions of the gunong, small enough to remain legal, but still formidable in close combat. Over time, the dagger became more stylized, often featuring carved hardwood handles, metal ferrules, and intricately engraved blades like the one in your photo. I found this mysterious object in my history classroom. My teacher isn't sure what it is either. It's made of carved wood in the center and appears to have a metal rim. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a hand-carved prosphora bread seal used in Eastern Orthodox and Eastern Catholic churches to prepare sacred bread for the Eucharist. These seals are pressed into the top of unbaked loaves to imprint religious symbols, most commonly a cross with Greek letters. The markings guide priests during the liturgy, showing exactly where to cut the bread during the service. Bread seals like this have been used for over 1,000 years. The practice began in the early Christian era and was heavily influenced by Roman baking customs, where loaves were stamped with identifying marks. By the Byzantine period, detailed seals were being used across the Christian world, from Greece to Egypt and Russia. Today, prosphora seals are still in active use all over the world, and artisans continue to carve them by hand. I found this small brass mask pendant at a thrift store. It appears to be handmade, with spring-like pieces soldered behind the eyes and beaded extensions on the sides. What you've found is a miniature Chokwe mask pendant, a traditional ornament linked to the Chokwe people of Central Africa, particularly in Angola and the Democratic Republic of Congo. These pendants are modeled after full-sized ceremonial masks, most commonly the Mwana mask, which represents an idealized female ancestor. The detailed facial features, including almond-shaped eyes, a narrow nose, and an open mouth with carved teeth, reflect traditional concepts of beauty among the Chokwe. The cross-shaped motif on the forehead is also significant. Known as Singil Angelia, it's a traditional scarification pattern with historical roots that trace back to Portuguese influence in the region during the 17th century. Over time, the Chokwe adopted the symbol as a decorative mark of prestige and protection, incorporating it into their masks and even personal tattoos. These pendants weren't just jewelry. They often served as amulets, believed to carry protective spiritual power. I found these 2 carved seals in a box of art supplies. One has a square base and the other is round, each leaving a unique stamp when pressed on paper. What you've found are traditional East Asian name seals, personalized stamps used in countries like China and Japan in place of handwritten signatures. These seals carry a person's name carved in stylized characters and are used to authenticate documents or artwork. The square and round shapes you see are common formats. In China, seals are often square, while in Japan, personal seals, known as hanko or inkan, are usually round. They're dipped in a thick red ink paste and pressed onto paper to leave a clear, consistent imprint. Name seals have been used for over 2,000 years, originating in Imperial China and later adopted by Japan and Korea. I found this old metal tool while cleaning out my grandfather's shed. It has a serrated clamp and a pointed spike at the end. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a Kragg's combination jar opener, a cleverly engineered kitchen tool from the 1930s. Invented by Franz Krag and manufactured by his company in Chicago, this compact device was designed to open screw-top jars, pop bottle caps, and pierce tin cans. Its adjustable jaws lock around a jar lid using a lever mechanism that delivers a firm grip and added torque, making it much easier to twist off tight lids. The pointed spike at the end was used to puncture cans, while a small hooked flange built into the frame served as a bottle opener. These tools were marketed during the Great Depression as affordable, space-saving solutions for the everyday kitchen. My dad has had this strange metal item on his keyring for years, but he's never known what it's actually used for. It's about 3 inches long and made of solid metal. Does anyone know what this is? What you found is a vintage bicycle gear shift lever. These small levers were commonly mounted on older multi-speed bicycles and were used to manually change gears by pulling or releasing a cable connected to the drivetrain. The rider would move the lever forward or back to shift the chain between different sprockets, making it easier or harder to pedal depending on the terrain. Levers like this were widely used from the 1930s through the 1980s, especially during the 10-speed boom of the 1970s. They required a bit of skill to operate since they didn't have indexed clicks like modern shifters. Instead, riders learned to shift by feel and sound, adjusting the lever just enough for the chain to catch the next gear. I was walking past a building when this thing suddenly dropped and hit the ground just a few feet behind me. It looks heavy with metal fins and some wiring inside. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a motor rotor. It's the part that turns inside the motor to convert electrical energy into mechanical motion. This particular rotor was most likely removed from a medium-sized industrial motor, possibly from a heating, ventilation, and air conditioning fan. Rotors like this have a long history. The principle behind them dates back to the early 1800s, but the breakthrough came in 1888, when Nikola Tesla patented the alternating current induction motor, a design that eliminated brushes and commutators and made possible more efficient and durable motors. His invention changed the course of industrial development and is still the foundation for most motors used today. In the last video, I asked you to guess what this long-handled object with a spear-like metal tip might be. Everyone had great guesses, and many of you got it right. This item is an old soldering iron, the kind that had to be heated with a separate torch before use. Thank you to everyone who participated and shared your guesses. A special shout out to Just Here for being the first to correctly identify it. That's the 5th time he's been the first to get it right. All right, it's time for another mystery item. Take a look at this small aluminum object. It's a lightweight tube with holes on one end and the threads on the other. What do you think this object is used for? Leave your guesses in the comments, and I'll reveal the answer in the next video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Your support motivates me to create more videos. See you next time.